Do you know who the first global fashion brand was?
No, I'm not tracking with you, Holland. Tell me.
It was Brooks Brothers, and they set up shop in 1818.
No way. Huh.
My memory of Brooks Brothers is one time I didn't have any ties, and I was in New York City, and I had to run down to the closest shop and buy ties. It was Brooks Brothers. So I'm grateful to them, but I did not know that they were more than 200 years old. Anyway, before Brooks Brothers, I guess the first fashion statement was creatively connected fig leaves.
True.
But those garments would have had some serious wash and wear issues. So, it's amazing to think about how fashion has evolved over time and within and across a variety of cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many facets that influence what type of clothes we wear, whether it's geographical, historical, socioeconomical, personality. For me, I fought against the dresses that were offered to me. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with them. I was much happier in my male cousin's hand-me-down overalls. So, Holland, did you have an item of clothing that was a favorite for you?
I don't know that I had one that was quite a favorite, but I remember when I was in third grade, the most popular show, I guess, or one of the most popular shows on TV was Miami Vice. And you remember those guys wore white, or one of them wore these white coats. They were sort of like sport coats, but I guess they were linen or something that were fine in Miami heat. And I remember being in the stores and just seeing rows and rows of them, and boys talking about wanting them, and seeing teenage guys wear them around, those Miami Vice jackets.
Oh, yeah. With the pastel colors and everything. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I certainly am no fashion expert. And tonight we're looking at how brands, styles, and fashions unite people. And I have asked some experts to join us tonight at the table. We have Maggie Carlen, Hayley Cheek, and Jade Morton. These are the executive and creative founders of Sunny's Boutique here to join us. So welcome, ladies.
In addition, we have Hadeel Osman, a Forbes 30 Under 30 founder of the multidisciplinary creative DAVU studio from Sudan. So welcome.
Hi, I'm Holland Webb.
Hi, I'm Amy Boland.
And you're listening to The Afterword, a conversation about the future of words.
Now, I know all of you have fascinating personal stories that have brought you from childhood to where you are now working in fashion. In just 60 seconds each, would you mind sharing the Cliff Notes version of your life and who you are? And we'll start with Hadeel.
So I am a third culture kid. I was born and raised in the United Arab Emirates. I lived across the states, Malaysia, several countries in Africa. I'm actually speaking to you now from Cairo, Egypt. I'm a creative director, mentor, sustainable fashion researcher, and advocate. I'm also a fashion designer in training, and I'm a fashion stylist. I love to fuse visual identity with personal identity and culture and arts, and really just honing in on knowing ourselves and seeing the fashion aspects of that, along with like marketing and just understanding consumer behavior.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I will go first for us from Sunny's Mobile Boutique. I'm Jade. I, like the rest of us, was raised in the South, wonderful state of South Carolina in the United States. Grew up here. I am primarily a nurse as my occupation. I work in the emergency room. But I grew up with family members who were gifted in the arts. My grandmother was a painter, and she taught me from a young age how to look for different colors in nature and identify patterns just that were naturally around me. So I've always kind of had an eye for artistic things and never really got to express that, obviously, with my medical job. And so being able to use painting denim, which is what we do, as my creative outlet, and bringing that to our business has been really awesome and a good way to stretch myself in my fashion ideas, I guess.
I'm Maggie, and I am another founder of Sunny's Mobile Boutique. I would say I'm the co-painter and co-designer of some of the styles we do. I was also born and raised in South Carolina, lived here all my life. I have less of an artistic family history, but me and my mom just grew up going shopping all the time, and that was kind of our love language. So we would pick out different clothing items and put them together, and that was just kind of something that bonded us. So I've always had an eye and loved just different fashion trends and putting outfits together that were unique. And yeah, that's kind of what I've loved about doing Sunny's Mobile Boutique, is we're bringing unique things to the table.
And I'm Hayley, the third member of Sunny's Mobile Boutique. I am much less on the artistic side as these two ladies. I kind of brought the business end to our side business. I'm also a nurse, born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina. My artistic background is more actually on the musical end, but have always been around business. My dad was a businessman, handyman. So even though I chose the medical field, I've always had a passion and interest in business and really just making dreams of my dreamer friends become realities, as I'm usually the doer friend. So I've kind of just been the support for these ladies, our creative dreams and endeavors, and just like helping make it all come to fruition.
Wow, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm so excited to have all of you here joining us at the Afterword table. But, there's, for some of us who don't really understand fashion, I know there have been a lot of new fashion shows and things that maybe have helped people kind of see behind the scenes a little bit. But we just need to get some trend words or some fashion words out so we can all be at the same understanding when we're talking about things. So the first one, and it doesn't matter who takes it, haute couture. What are we talking about? Hadeel, you got an idea on that one?
Yeah. To me, haute couture is designing without restriction. It's to see the identity or the design identity, the creative path of the designer. It's also not meant to be for everyday wear. It's very avant-garde, and we see a lot of it in luxury fashion.
Okay, very good. Sunnies, do any of you have anything else to add to that?
Well, Amy, this is actually a new word for us. We love fashion, but we are definitely learning since our business is only a year old. We're still learning a lot of these things, and especially where we're from, Greenville, South Carolina, this is not something you would see every day.
Okay.
So I would say it's not, the haute couture is not as popular or commonplace where we're from. But I'd like to think with our custom painted pieces, we add haute couture in a very achievable, more, I guess, realistic way with our business, which is kind of fun.
I love that. Yeah, because I appreciate what Hadeel said about the identity of the designer. So maybe some of your pieces are showing a little bit of that identity. Love that. All right. How about accessories? I know, what that means for in some fields that I've worked in, but what does that mean for fashion?
I guess I could take this. Accessories, the first thing I think of is just like items that are adding to an outfit. So watches, headbands, like a belt, those kind of things. So it's really something that's just going to add to your outfit that can sometimes be a statement piece, or it can also just be additional to whatever you're wearing, kind of fitting the look you're going for. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of accessories, just adding to an outfit.
Okay, excellent. Hadeel, have you got something else to add?
I totally agree with what they just said. I think it's basically like adding spice.
I love that.
To the look, yeah.
Adding spice. That's awesome. I love that. Okay. How about mass production? Probably something that you all are not really fans of.
Exactly. When I think about mass production, I immediately think about the negative effects of it. So it for me, it's just something that is it needs to be outdated. I think that's how I would define it.
Okay. How about you, Sunny's group?
When I think about mass production, I think about a lot of the same. So when things become trendy, they tend to be mass produced. And that's where you're shopping and you see 100 of the same shirts on multiple racks. And that's kind of what I see. Sometimes it's along with sometimes cheaper made clothing, not as quality.
And as a business, we promote the opposite. We promote one-of-a-kind, unique, hand-painted denim that is unique to yourself, and you're not going to find anywhere else. So, yeah, we would agree that mass production is not always the best for the fashion industry.
Gotcha. Kind of like Holland's reference to the white jackets that he was seeing for Miami Vice, all the folks in the white jackets.
Yes, right.
All right. Now, this one's kind of near and dear to where we are here in Greenville, South Carolina, because this used to be a huge textile city. What do we mean by textile in fashion?
So textiles is, it's a lot of mass producing as well. They're mass producing the fabric that gets brought to the finishing plants to create pieces of fabric and clothing that are for sale and become mass produced. So you can't really have, fashion without textiles, because that's what's creating all the fabric for us. But again, it's kind of linked to mass production, I would say. Okay.
Hadeel, have you got something else to add?
Textile is definitely the raw material. That's what you start with before you make your garments. But I also like to look at it from more of like a holistic point of view, where, the process of making the textiles, especially from the global South, is more, traditional. There's a lot of weaving techniques. There are a lot of stories in each pattern that you see. So a lot of it has to do with cultural background and whatnot. But yes, I definitely agree with when we're talking about the mass production side, is that we're making too much and not utilizing all of it, or at least not utilizing all of it in a conscious way.
Excellent. I love that. And I can definitely see how the weaving and the stories that go along with the textiles is such an important, vital part of that creativity. All right. Our last phrase, designer versus creative. What do you think we could do to help us understand those terms?
I struggle a lot with, using one of each, because I'm under the same titles. Sometimes I'm referred to as a designer, other times I'm as a creative. I think the easiest way to kind of tell the difference is when you say, for example, a business person and an entrepreneur. So a designer is someone that is more focused on the process itself, and they have a specific endpoint. They know exactly what they're doing. They have a main skill set that they're using. But a creative can basically fall under many, many different things. They can be the idea generator. They can be the maker. They can be, the person that's just in charge of overseeing things. So it's more general, which is why I put the example of the business person and the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs can be working in many different parts of a business, but a business person is mostly the person in charge of how it runs.
Okay, excellent. And Sunnies, it sounds like you all have almost every single one of those aspects that Hadeel just described in your business.
Yeah, I think she did a good job of explaining the difference. We're definitely all creatives, not designers. But just the idea that we all, like Hayley is on the business side, and me and Jade do more of the artistic part, but it's all a collective kind of flow for our business, at least. There's not like one specific designer. It just kind of all works together. So I think we would definitely be under the creative lens of that.
Perfect. All right. Well, this helps us out, gets us started in this conversation as we think about fashion and clothing and trends across the cultures and how this can unite each other. So thank you all so much for helping us understand these phrases.
So let's start off by talking about how fashion impacts the world. Amy and I recently did an episode on garbage, where it comes from, where it goes, how it gets there, what happens to it. And one culprit that often finds its way into landfills and doesn't return to the earth in a very nice way is clothing. So there have been efforts over time to try to impact or minimize the impact of clothing on the environment. During the world wars, there was a movement to conserve, mend, and make do. And then more recently, Amy and I did another podcast with one of our guests was Mary Catherine Kunze from a previous episode. She shared the idea of upcycling, which uses one item and then repurposes it for different use. What are your observations on recycling in the world of fashion, and how do you think what are some of the new ideas about how to minimize the impact of fashion on the environment, and what do you think's working and what's not? Hadeel, how about we start with you?
All right. So I'm noticing that, right now we're seeing upcycling used to be a niche, kind of like, how tech fashion is considered for a specific group of people. It was never really seen as the norm. And I'm talking from a global world view, basically from a world view. But if we look at it from a global South view, upcycling, DIYing, changing things up, the whole idea of like sustaining a garment and, giving it new life or giving it a new owner, these are things that are deeply found within our culture because we value what we already own. So the whole concept of, shopping just to shop or having a lot of something is something that has just been introduced to us in the last 10 to 15 years. But before that, and still within us, we have these habits where, you have to know how to mend your clothes. This is seen as a life skill, just like how it's, everyone basically knows how to take care of themselves, how to clean up, how to even cook. Mending is also like a life skill. So it's not so much a niche from our point of view, but I'm very happy to see that in the fashion industry globally, whether it's small businesses, independent designers, or even big fashion houses, taking on the concept of upcycling and using whatever they have left over from previous collections, using dead stock materials. The fact that it's becoming trendy right now, this is really, really good because we're changing the concept of, fast fashion trends, and we're being more conscious and we're being more conscious as well. So I'm really loving the changes that have happened, even though they took place rapidly during a pandemic, which is not really, it's been tough for everyone, but it's change. And, change sometimes comes in surprising ways.
From our perspective here in Southern America, I would say a lot of what Hadeel said is a little bit opposite. I feel like people shop for excess as far as us, in the trend of upcycling or recycling clothes in recent years, like she mentioned, has been really great for the fashion industry and something that we think very highly of as a business and something that we do as a business as well. Our hand-painted denim, we go and do the hard work of finding the good vintage or high-quality clothes that people have no longer use for. And so, and we take them and we create our fashion and our art out of them. So
I definitely think that, just like Hadeel said, it is more trendy now to shop ethically or to think sustainably, which is awesome. We always want to be greener. But like Hayley was saying, not everyone wants to do the work to definitely not mend their own clothing here in the States. But also to do the work to go to a thrift store and find clothing that they actually would be interested in, or that is quality and worth giving a second chance. And so that's just something that our very small business is incorporating, is we'll put that work in if you reuse these jeans and give them a new home.
Oh, this is so good. I appreciate everyone's answers and this idea that Hadeel said about valuing what we own and mending being a life skill. It is so interesting to hear the difference culturally. But the thing I hear most especially is this idea of ethically shopping and sourcing this. So let's think about theory a little bit with fashion. And do you have an idea, and Hadeel, I'm going to toss this to you first, of how a style or a type of clothing becomes a global trend, or maybe even possibly a failure? What supports or kills the trend, Hadeel?
This is one of my favorite questions. So we're seeing like a lot of help from basically the internet. And in the past like 10 to 15 years, it's been, aside from, traditional advertising, we're seeing regular people that look like us, blogging about it. And now we have influencer, the culture of influencing and influencers has now become a marketing scheme within itself. So a lot of the times when we're seeing basically like a trending item is an item that is seen that maybe looks a bit different or is, easy to manufacture, because a lot of the trends, they are created by, luxe fashion houses and then duplicated by fast fashion companies. And we have plenty of this stuff everywhere. So it's successful when, celebrities are wearing it and influencers are wearing it. And so they're giving you all these links and they make it easier for you to shop for it. When it becomes a failure, I would say when it does not really resonate with people's lifestyles. So if you've noticed during the pandemic, baggy clothes, comfy loungewear, sports luxe clothing, that became the thing. So for a designer to maybe create like a silk suit, that's not really going to sell as much compared to the comfortable clothing. And also it depends on the regions as well. So if you create, heavy wool jackets for people who live in a warmer climate, that's also not going to succeed. But I feel like what's happening right now is that the concept of trendy is slowly diminishing. It's going to take a very long time before we see that, but it really is reducing as people get more knowledge about who they are, what they want to wear, understanding their identity, because that's very interlinked with what we wear. And soon enough, what's trendy is what you think is trendy and not what companies are basically forcing you to think is the cool thing to wear or to be.
That's awesome. All right. Somebody from Sunny's, what do you think?
Yeah, I would just echo all the things she was saying, but I guess on our side, we're seeing a lot of, specifically like Instagram and influencers on social media platforms that are just promoting this thing that becomes really popular. And that's where you start the trend. And I would say too, what kills a trend too, I feel like people are more nowadays really focused on uniqueness. And so sometimes if something looks overdone, to me, I feel like that is how it's stopping, especially for the younger generation. They want to have, like Hadeel was saying, they want to have their own identity. They want their clothes to express who they are. And so I think that too goes into the trend, even though a trend kind of is a lot of people doing the same thing. I feel like that is kind of the oxymoron of the trendy culture nowadays. But
okay. Excellent. Well done. Thank you, Elle.
Let's think a little bit more practically now and talk about some of the inventions and innovations that have come along in the last few, couple centuries maybe. Things like elastic and Velcro and zippers. These have become part of fashion too, in a way that people a few decades ago wouldn't have maybe expected. They also support efficiency efforts. They help streamline production. What are some things you're noticing now, either that you've used or that you see happening in the fashion world that are very practical, that contribute to efficiency, and that you think we're going to see in clothes of the future?
I have to admit, like for the longest time, I thought elastic elastane was the best thing that I've ever seen in my life, because of how, you get comfort and that you also feel like, that you can fit a bunch of people into like specific sizing. And we noticed that a lot, especially in the 90s when like the whole one size fits all thing was a trend. I'm glad it doesn't exist anymore though. But as I learn more about the fashion industry and with our advocacy work, like through Fashion Revolution and all that, I've come to understand that, elastic is basically eternal waste. But what I am glad to see right now is that there's a lot of engineers and designers that are working with or trying to create an elastic material, either from, recycling old plastic or even creating it from cellulose and from natural materials that are found in our day-to-day life, so that, it stays and it doesn't really impact the environment negatively. So that would be one of the things I really do like. And zippers are really cool as well.
Yeah, I would say, I guess personally for our business, we really only deal with zippers and buttons with the denim blue jeans. But you're right, zippers are super cool. And I think that being able to, we've thought of ideas to reuse some of those accessory elements in other ways, like as accessories onto jeans or onto jackets. But the elastic is awesome. We all are nurses. We all wear scrubs every day to work. And so our clothing that we wear on a daily basis is a lot of comfort. So I can kind of echo, I do love elastic, but that's really cool and exciting to hear that they're dreaming up of ways for it to be made a little bit greener.
Nobody mentioned Velcro. That must be, none of you must have young children at home, because that is every young mom and dad's favorite invention ever. You don't have to teach that kid to tie their shoes. You can just slap the Velcro down and it's on there, and it's going to stay on there till they learn how to peel it back up. I remember being very grateful for Velcro until they were about, 5 or 6, and then it was easier for them to tie their shoes.
It's definitely very, very functional. My issue with it is that it's quite noisy. So that's just the problem with it. But otherwise, I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, goodness. Holland, Velcro. I love it. Love it. Well, this has been
on my shoes, but I can tell you it was a lifesaver. It's one of those things that, you just don't appreciate until you've got a 2-year-old. Exactly.
Absolutely. So, and I guess as we think about how fashion has transpired and evolved, and I love hearing about this environmentally conscious elastic and products and things and the reusing. Let's wrap up this first episode with an essential element to what we need to understand the stories and the connections of fashion globally. And why don't we, let's see, I'm going to try to reverse our order a little bit. Let's start with Jade first, and then I'll ask each one of you.
Yeah, I love this question. It was thought-provoking for me just to reflect on that. And I would say just fashion as a whole and understanding it is that there really isn't one right answer for it. Everyone has their own unique fashion sense. It's always an evolving thing. As we have been talking about trends coming in and out and the cyclical nature of fashion trends. And so I just think that everyone is entitled to their own sense of fashion. And it is really just a way of expressing themselves, and that to understand it, you have to first allow yourself to not think so black and white about it.
Okay, awesome. Very nice. How about you, Hayley?
I would echo some of what Jade said, and also just say that for me, I am, like I said, I'm not really even the fashion expert out of the three of us. So for me, it's just like getting out of my comfort zone to find my unique style and my own personal fashion, but even getting out of my comfort zone to be able to understand the stories that I'm seeing around me and the way that people are expressing themselves through their fashion sense.
I like that. And then Maggie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the first thing that pops up into my mind is creative expression, which is kind of what these girls were saying too. But just the fact that a lot of times we look at fashion and don't think art, but I feel like that's a lot of what I see, especially what we do too. We are trying to manifest the fact that you can wear art, and a lot of that is expressing who you are. But some of that comes into play too with getting ideas off of other people. And we forget that sometimes, that each individual person has a unique way of expressing themselves in their fashion.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either. That's awesome. All right, Hadeel, wrap it up for us. What's an essential element we need to know to think about stories in fashion?
I totally agree with the ladies from Sunny's. I'll also add that it's not just a finished garment or what you get to put on. It's the whole story of making it from scratch. It's knowing where the materials are sourced, who's behind what you're wearing, the people that worked hard to make it, the journey that the raw material has traveled all the way to the factory, all the way to the stores and into your closet. So I think that's what really lets us, be part of the story as well.
So good. Thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun, Holland.
It has been. That was the perfect line to end on, too. So special thanks to Hadeel Osman, Maggie Carlen, Hayley Cheek, and Jade Morton. This has been an entertaining and very educational conversation. Thank you. While you wait for part 2, please put on your best outfit and go to theafterwordpodcast.com and become a subscriber. It's all the fashion. Leave us a review and tell your friends about us. And as always, you are welcome at our table, no matter what you're wearing.